Each year, we literally talk to hundreds of investors that are investing with families. Now, obviously, that stage of life, whether you're planning on having a family soon or you've already got one, can put a massive amount of pressure on your household. You've not just got your family and your partner to look after, but you've got your career, and then thinking about saving and investing on top of that can be overwhelming, which is why in this video, Simon and I just wanted to have a super real chat with you about the pros and cons and the journey while investing with a young family.
Now, Ben, I think you're a really great case study for this video because most of your investment career, you have had children. So what's it been like juggling family, raising children, investing, saving money, all of those different moving parts?
Yeah, so for us, my wife and I, Lise, bought a couple of investment properties before we had our bub, but it wasn't really, we weren't taking it that seriously, to be honest with you. Like I was like, at that point in time, just buy as many cheap properties as the bank would lend me.
Yeah.
No real strategy, no real plan. It was kind of like buy and hope that longer term these properties would work out for me. But once we found out we were pregnant with Summer, that's when we really started to get more serious. So just before she was born, we bought our third property, which we called the Granny Shack. It was a little beach sort of home, pretty run down up here on the sunny coast.
A fixer-upper that you guys got your hands dirty on that one for sure.
Yeah, and like that was super fun, man. So I'd gone from like a pretty good job up in North Queensland when, everything was simple. I could work up there and then come back on the weekends or week on, week off type vibe.
Yeah.
To going, sheesh, we're about to have a bub. There's zero chance of me working away from her while we do this.
Yeah.
And I went from like literally over 150, almost 200 grand salary back to like $45,000.
Wow.
And then obviously going from like that income plus a combined one with my partner working full time to just one after we'd had the bub was like a huge change. So I remember with that property, we'd literally go down to Bunnings with like the $50 a fortnight we'd have left over in our budget and we'd buy like some paint or some rails. And we just slowly worked through that property over a period of about 2 years and fixed it up. And then obviously over time, my wage started to grow again and my partner went back to work after sort of 5 or 6 months.
It seems quite scary to think about that, like going from a really solid income, let alone 2 incomes in the household, to then going to a much lower, like a third of your income and then a single income as well. Like I know that would knock a lot of people's confidence and be super scary. So like how did you maintain that mental sanity or clarity that like, no, property investing is the right path?
It's funny, like I hear from one of my original mentors back then, because I was still in my early 20s, right? Like or mid 20s. And so I wasn't, focusing so much on money. I was focusing more on skills. And he said, Ben, like in your 20s, it's about building skills. Don't worry about the cash. And so I'd learned project management at IBM. In my next role, I'd learned like one-to-one sales.
Yeah.
But I knew the missing link in my like future of learning skills was marketing. And so it was sort of like a career jump. I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I was very lost.
Right.
And this was like starting from scratch, a new apprenticeship to go and learn. But to be honest with you, man, like I didn't even know any better. Like I wish, like looking back, I wasn't thinking too far into the future. I was like, this is our reality. Let's just make the most of what we've got at the moment.
Well, I know a lot of people get stuck in what they call the golden handcuffs, right? Like imagine earning 100, 150K in your early 20s, mid 20s. It's like a lot of money. Like
a lot of money.
More than most people would ever imagine. To then going way back, it's like that's intense to think that like skills are more important than money at that stage of life because most people in their 20s don't think like that.
No, man, I don't know what I was thinking. I was a bit of a nutcase. I still am.
Yeah, well, I guess I hope it's working out,
But, it's so funny, man. Even when I was earning that better money, it never felt like I was because 100% of what I was earning, like my entire salary or living off leases, was just going to saving for that next investment or that renovation or that next thing. So even though like I got the taste of like what better money felt like, I never actually ate it. And realized that like we had one little car that was worth $2,000 and like I just never like upgraded my lifestyle. I didn't upgrade my lifestyle till I was past 30, to be honest.
Yeah, regardless of like the income that you're earning, you're still delaying that gratification and, eating tuna and crackers every single day.
Oh, so ripped, man. And I was riding everywhere, so I was fit too.
The funny thing is, like, I've talked to a lot of friends that have had kids now whilst investing, mostly yourself and Davo. But you hear people like Joe Rogan talk about this as well. Like the day that child is born, and for some reason with men, when it's a daughter, the motivation side of things like really ramps up. Like you get a fire lit under your ass and start just moving into action. So like, did you have a similar experience once Summer was born with like the motivation to make it happen?
I went from a place where I was like already on a fast track, I suppose you'd call it, to getting to where I wanted to be financially, to just going like boom, boom. Like I was actually catching up with one of our best friends, like Josho in the surf recently, and he's like, dude, can you have imagined like where we would be at this point? And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like I've said this to you before and on camera, like I could completely see at 26 that by 36, 40, I'd have choices in my life. And he's like, how? And I'm like, because I wrote goals. I thought about my property investment plan. I consistently saved and I did the work. And to answer the question, like, how was that juggling act? Hard, stressful. Like in my early 30s, I sort of had like a mini breakdown. Like basically, like I just absolutely lost the plot, got stuck in like a dark sort of anxiety hole for like years, really. And it was because I was focusing on the future so much, working so hard, saving all my money. And I had a young business, a young investment portfolio, and a young family. And it's stressful and it's intense. So if I could talk to myself now, back then, I'd just be like, trust the process that it's all going to work out.
Okay.
Commit to a dollar amount each week that you're going to pay yourself, or you and your partner are going to pay yourselves, and just enjoy the journey. Like there were periods during that time that I couldn't invest for like 3 or 4 years because the banks wouldn't lend me money. I had dependents. My income was low. There were other times when I could go buy literally 3 properties in a year. And so take the shots as they come up. And when you're ready, like take calculated strategic action.
Yeah, because like it's very rare to see people do that at the same time, like find that confidence, take the action, continue sacrificing throughout that period. Because like I know for a lot of my friends, it's a very different situation. They have a very different mentality and mindset toward investing and family. And I know you're probably in a similar situation there. Like what have most of your friends done that is different to you?
Most of our clients, most of our friends, most people in Australia, if we're being honest, will either invest a little bit before having kids or maybe buy their own home with a young family. Maybe they'll do one investment and then most people will come back to it when their kids are about 10 or so once they're starting to get in that flow again. So from, 2 of my best mates that were in my viral party, Percy and Macca, we've all started together and continued forward. Like Macca's at property 5 or 6 now, maybe a bit more. Percy's the same. And I've obviously done some as well. And we've all sort of continued to invest with families. Where a lot of the other boys have literally just in the last few years bought their first home. And that doesn't change anything. Obviously, everyone's got their own journey, but it really just comes off the back of like the 3 of us continued to like deeply educate ourselves on investing, finance, personal development, and moving forward. Because the 3 of us all said that we want to be fully financially free in our 40s. And so you have to do something in your 20s and 30s to achieve that.
It's funny that because, they say that you're the average of the people that you surround yourself with. And you've been, I remember Macca and Percy coming around when I was in my like 10, 11, 12 years of age. And like you guys have always been solid and, you've enjoyed your life. You've gone traveling, you've gone partying, you've blown cash, you've had a good time. But at the same time, like the underlying values has always been, deep and meaningful conversations, challenging one another, motivating one another, supporting each other in your blind spots as well. Do you feel like surrounding yourself with those 2 guys, just serendipitously from where you grew up in school has like been another reason why you've been able to maintain like the path? Is that the right word? Like maintain that consistency?
Yeah, like I'm the same as you, bro, and the same as all of you guys listening to this. Like we're collectors of ideas. You're listening this week. I can guarantee just probably some health stuff, some like spiritual stuff, some psychology stuff. You're listening to business stuff. You're listening to investing stuff. And most of you guys are too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to us have a rant right now. It's like, I'm a collector of ideas, and you collect enough ideas over time and you realize, regardless of the like silo of life, health, family, wealth, fitness, like whatever it is, travel, contribution, spirituality, it's actually all the exact same thing. And so when you go from a life of different baskets to realizing that there's a pattern in everything, and you collect enough ideas off enough smart people for a while, and you realize that you're no different than those smart people.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
you're in many ways like got advantages with the way that you were born that can actually help you achieve things that they can't.
100%.
And so it's like you don't have to follow someone else's journey. Like at the start, we were both motivated by like each other, by like the journey, but then it turned very internal, especially after that first kid, to like, I just hear myself, and I always have, and I knew there was a reason to become financially free. And I believe that reason was for these conversations and this work, and to inspire you guys to like, it's going to be fucking hard
Yeah.
to do it with kids, with one income, with dependents. The banks hate kids.
Yeah.
Like the banks just like think my kid that costs $20,000 a year is $100,000 liability a year or something. And it's like, it's an uncomfortable period because there's so much stress on the relationship. There's lack of sleep. You come home from your career, your job or your business, and then it's like your next job starts until the second they go to sleep and you're worn out. But like if you can continue on with it, it can change everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, they say like one of the biggest reasons that families separate is because of the financial instability. It is an unfortunate reality of the world that we live in, that like money does make the world go around. And like if you don't have what you feel as though you need, it's going to create that tension within the relationship. And I think for me, like getting started before I had kids was like a good thing to just take care of that one aspect of life that is really important before bringing some children into this world and being able to just spend that time with them. So I'm like reading this book at the moment. It's called The Myth of Normal, same as the shit that I always read and listen to, which is just very esoteric, very counterintuitive, very against the norm and what we've been told, but that's just me.
Is it deeply intuitive with how we are versus how the structure of society is now?
Absolutely.
Like it's almost like everything up until science came in 400 years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like he talks a lot about like the village lifestyle and like how important that is, and just like being there to support your kid, like eliminating stress out of your life. He thinks like stress is the reason that we have all of these issues like autoimmune diseases, mental health issues, like addictions. All of these things are off the back of stress, like stress from the mother when she's got a baby in her belly, like maybe working really hard to make sure they got enough money by the time the baby comes along.
Sorry, kids.
Yeah.
Look, it sent mum back to work too soon.
That's what I mean. It's an intense video. It's an intense book. But like for me, it's like, it was a good reminder to be like, okay, well, one thing that I've recognized from buying a few investment properties is like now the only difference between where I am and where I want to be is time. And it creates this financial piece. This is really nice to know that we've got the financial aspects set, but instead of like hustling and like I've always prior to this point in time wanted to make sure that I was getting financially free, I was getting that passive income, as soon as possible. But now it's like reading this book and having the understanding that from where I am to where I want to be, it's just time. It's like I've pushed out the passive income goal. Like I don't need it now. I don't need
change anything, right?
No, I don't need it now. I don't need it in 5 years. Like I'll work towards it in the long term over the next 10 to 15 years. Because like I was looking at this study and it's like in those first 10 years, it's when you spend the most time with your children.
Yeah.
But then as they get to 10, they get like best friends at school.
Yeah.
They start playing sport. They start, doing sleepovers at friends' houses or whatever it might be. And you're not going to spend as much time with them. It's like from 0 to 10, you're their best friend.
Yeah.
It's like you want to be a present best friend. You want to be a present parent. So it's like really interesting to sort of do it the opposite way, which isn't available to most people, unfortunately. Like most people don't have that ability to get into the market before they have kids. Like it's just the norm, right? But I was lucky enough to have that, and I'm really grateful to be in that situation now.
I love that. Like, can I ask the question as to like, when you started investing at 25,
Yep.
were you thinking about future, family, and those choices at that point? Or was it more like, hey, I'm earning money, I'm doing this as my job? Like when you think about the 5 people you're hanging with, me, Crystal, Davo,
Yeah.
every single one of us and the other guys in the office were all heading in the same direction. Was there thought of like, if I do this now, I'll give myself choices as a like new parent, or was it more just this is the right thing to do at this stage and I'm going to do it?
I think, like in honesty, like I didn't have the thought yet about like how it's going to impact me when I was going to be a father. Like I don't know about other people, but for me, like until you know who your life partner is going to be and who you know that who's going to be the mother of your children, like I didn't think like that. I didn't think about kids too much. I just did what I could do at that point in time, followed my passions, like took action, did what I could.
We're still talking about property here?
Yeah, seriously. But no, I didn't really think about it too much. It was just I had a goal, I had an intention. I wanted to make that a reality. I'm a very goal-driven person. So yeah, I just did what I could when I could.
Does it take like this concept of financial peace that we've been talking a bit more lately? Like, does the concept now that you do have your own home, which you're like been renovating over the last few years and continuing to do at the moment, which is sick.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a walkthrough bit of how nice you're making this thing look.
Yeah, we got to get through soon actually, because we're about to start knocking down some walls.
Sheesh, that's cool. But like, does this concept of like, hey, I've done enough, and if I never invested again in my life and just slowly chipped away at the debt over the next 10, 15, 5, 20 years, whatever it takes, I'll be okay, just take some of that pressure off for you?
Massively. I didn't even realize that this was a part of the journey to financial freedom. I don't think any of us did until like we sat down and Hayden, who's like one of the most mindful people that you'll ever talk with, was just like, he came up with the idea of financial peace and we sort of explored it. And I was like, yeah, like it is a reality that like when you have the assets that you need to get to where you want to be in the future, there's a huge load taken off your shoulders, a huge load, especially when it is at those early years of life. So, you know, for me, I don't know what financial independence or freedom feels like. It's a long way away for me at this point, but I definitely feel that peace within me that like my worst case scenario is absolutely blessed and very, very fortunate.
I touched financial independence, and then it was ripped away with interest rates. Oh, man. And that was a good lesson, man, because I was like, okay, there's 2 ways to get financial independence longer term. I'm like the peace that we both feel and a lot of you guys feel from like having your own home or some super or some stocks or your own properties is really cool, and knowing that we'll all be okay in retirement because of that. But physical financial independence in terms of like a passive income stream is one way. Like for me, it was almost at 6 figures when interest rates were like 2%.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, going the other route and going, I'm just going to buy 2 or 3 really good properties that I can afford, whether that's $400,000 a property or $1 million a property, based on your personal risk profile and goals, and going, sweet, like in 10 years, I'm going to sell one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, you know, have financial peace and independence at that time. And it sort of really made me go, well, you know, with the government in charge of like my financial independence and peace, it's also sort of notched me up again in a gear of going, slowly chipping away at that debt does matter. Like, you know, and while we're in this holding pattern of like young families and we want to spend our time there and reduce the stress in our lives, most of the work isn't actually in the buying side of properties. It's in the debt reduction or the consolidation phase. And that's a fun stage with this idea of financial peace. It's not the actual grind chipping away at the properties. It's when you love and explore your life with your family.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just slowly chip away at the debt and have the holidays you want to have. Or I was talking to a client in WA, like legend, like Briar this week, and Dan, and they're killing it. Like they own their own home over there outright. She makes bank. He makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year plus. They've got 2 properties over here that we bought for them a while back. Both of them have doubled in value in the 5 years since we bought them, like looking at them independently. And the rents have gone ballistic. The debts have come down with principal and interest. And she's like, well, I just really want Dan to be home.
Yeah.
He's flying from WA to the East Coast, like here to like, they're doing the reverse, like fly out. And I was just like, she's like, my passion is I want to spend more time with the kids.
Yeah.
with him, I want a caravan, I want to get a car. And they can't see how well they're doing, and many of you guys can't. Like, you're kicking ass if you're even listening to this shit.
Yeah.
And I was just like, buy the car. Like,
Yeah.
get the caravan
Yeah.
that you want to get. Like, you don't have to go and get a
Like-
$200,000 rig. You can do what I did and get like a $30,000 like Prado, and you can get a $10,000 caravan secondhand.
Let me know where those 10K caravans.
Maybe they're not here after. Judge.
I went for a walk this morning. I'm like, Tay, if we want a caravan, we're gonna have to steal one of these ones on the side of the road. Hey, like they're so expensive. Hey, 10K doesn't exist, but I couldn't agree more that like, you need to take control of your own destiny there, and you need to just like, yes, delayed gratification is really important, but it's like you got to do something for yourself at some point as well to pat yourself on the back and appreciate that. But a lot of people you talk with that have investment strategies, it's about acquiring more. You look at like the Robert Kiyosaki method, it's just like more debt, more debt, more debt, more debt. Like, we're completely the opposite to that. And like, our goal is to get that title deed, get the title deed for our principal place of residence first and foremost, and then at least a couple of investment properties so that we aren't controlled by these changing interest rates. We're not changing by different economic conditions, different cycles and things like that, which I feel as though is so important. So like, that consolidation phase, that debt reduction phase is the most important part of a journey. And it does get really fun there because you've got experience. You've probably bought at least 3 properties, your own home, and at least a couple of investments. And it's like, okay, that's a lot of experience. 3 properties is probably more than the average Australian ever buys in their whole entire life.
And you're part of a less than 5% of Aussies at that point.
Yeah. So you've got that, you've got that knowledge. You generally have the team, like a great mortgage broker, a great accountant, great property managers. And then you can go, well, I've stuck to the boring strategy because that's the one that works, right? Just buying houses in quality markets at the right time and holding them for the long term.
Yeah.
But then once you get to that consolidation, you can be like, maybe I try my hand at like flipping a property. Maybe I'll look at doing, a knockdown rebuild. Maybe I'll look at doing a subdivision because you've got more experience, you've got more money behind you, and you can enjoy that journey. But like, don't stop until you get the title deed. Don't stop until you get the title deed.
And also with that, maybe your next thing isn't more. Like, I heard that with Kiyosaki and many of these guys, it's like, it's always more. They're chasing that green light and thinking that it's going to fulfill whatever they're trying to fulfill. And it's like, well, maybe more for you in terms of my journey as a young family in investing wasn't more stuff. It was like, I want to take Fridays off. And it took me 9 months to get the confidence to do that. And I took half a day off first, then a full day. And then I realized, what was I ever doing on Fridays? I must have been wasting at least 10 hours a week at work doing fuck all. And then I was like, well, what else could that look like then? So we started to take, because nothing happens in property in Australia for 3 weeks over Christmas. So we started to like take the full 3 weeks off over Christmas as like a break. And then it was like, well, hang on, my kids have all of these school holidays where they're home. What would it look like if I took 1 week off with them and we went on like a little caravan trip or like to Bali or just hung out at home for the week? And it's like, more for me is exactly what you said in that book. It's like, how can we do this? Like, raise a family, have a career or a business and invest and get financial peace in the future, but love the journey and reduce the stress and let go of the expectation of trying to be a perfect dad, a perfect athlete, a perfect business owner, a perfect investor, a perfect career guy.
Even just specific timeframes, like in 5 years, I will be financially free. In 15 years, I will have $100,000 of passive income. Like, you don't need to set it in stone like the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, hey, last year I was personally I was just exhausted from like 10 years of going through it. And I had a couple of injuries and it just slowed me right down. I read a book called Rest, which taught me how to like just chill out and like slide into the zone. And then this year I've been really focusing on like letting go of expectations and just being like more in flow with life and more grateful for life. And that's having a positive effect. And it's like, I know I'm going to get there. My ambition is as strong as ever. I care more about my life and my future than I ever have before. But I also have completely let go of it too. And it's like, it's taking massive amounts of pressure off us, which the parents that I talk to generally are like, I need to do it now. And that's an urgency feeling because you're like, I'm trading every single day that you go to work and not invest is a day away from your children in the future. And if 95% of our time with them is before they're 18, then what we do matters now.
It's such a challenging concept.
So hard
To think about like achieving goals, achieving success, like the Western version of success.
Yeah.
But then also just like enjoying the journey and letting go and not having those expectations. Like it's almost like those two things don't exist in the same world. Like it's a paradox. They don't exist. But at the same time, it completely does, because that's what you've realized this year. And that's what I've realized as well. Like you do need to surrender. You do need to let go, because it's just not worth it.
You know, I completely agree. Like a couple of people that I've met recently, like when we were on the road last year, I met this couple and it was their first day. He'd just sold his electrical business and his home on the Goldie. And he's like, we're just traveling indefinitely. And he was like super, super wound up. I talked to him yesterday or the day before and he's like 9 months onto his round Australia trip at the moment. And he's like, I feel like the structure of modern society has got its wrong. He's like, I feel like we're supposed to be, while we're young, with our families, adventuring and exploring. And then as our bodies start to age, sorting out the financial thing down the track. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I fully hear what you're saying, but why does it have to be this or that? Why can't it be that and that? Which is something that Ryan from On Property taught me. And another one of our clients, James, he's got his home in Byron that he just is bawling on. He had like the most successful chiropractic business. I think Mick Fanning, Josh Parko, Josh Kerr were his clients. Like I think even like Kelly, when he'd come to Australia, would go see him. And he just went, fuck it. I'm not feeling good. I've got chronic fatigue in my own body. I'm just over it. And he rented out his house in Byron for $100K a year. He's got some crypto and he's got properties that we helped him do. And he's just gone. And he's like, I'm going for like 3 to 4 years.
Wow.
And he's on his like, he's already been on the road for a year. We're catching up with him in like Tassie for Christmas and stuff and getting some waves. We'll meet him again in Cactus to like surf in South Oz later next year. And then he's like, I'm just selling my whole rig next year. And he's like, I'm going to go to Europe and buy the same thing and do that. And then he's like, I'm going to sell that. And I'm going to go to America and do like, he's just on his journey.
I think like investing is just the means to the end. You know, like we've chosen property as our vehicle, but you can choose, you know, stocks, crypto, business, whatever it might be. But property is just the vehicle that we've chosen. And it is really a means to an end, but it doesn't mean that like the end is only when you get it. Like the means can be throughout that period as well. And I think if you work smarter, not harder, and really use the system to your advantage, you can have that lifestyle where you're doing both at the same time.
There's really no end because like, as Alan Watts says that you and I both love, like I just love his voice.
Yeah, me too.
And I've finally started to understand what he's saying.
I know, I don't. One sentence in like a 45-minute video, I'm like, oh yeah.
But he's like, there is no end. Like by the time you get to the end, it's the present again. And then he just starts laughing because he's like, it's always just going to be the present. And I just think that's the fucking, I like the concoction of this weird life.
The letting go as well and just being, you know, silly and just like not taking life so seriously. So like we take life so seriously because like we've been indoctrinated into this system. But you listen to Alan Watts and he's just like, you know, here's this sage, right? Like he's really
smoking pipes, smashing beers.
Yeah, and always just onto it. But at the same time, like those truth bombs, and he just laughs at himself all the time when he's like recognizing when he is taking things too seriously. It's like, just let it go. Like, just let it go. And like investing is a little bit like that. You can't control these things. Like we get told in January or whatever of 2022 that interest rates are going to be held at 0.1% until 2024. And everybody makes decisions off the back of that. Less than 18 months later, that goes up 350, 400 basis points. It's like, you really have to let go and surrender. Like you just cannot control everything. You just got to do what you can when you can and then let the rest go.
You know, I think the question that is important for you guys as either people thinking about starting a family or people like myself with kids, like what would your life look like if like this year, this month, this week, you decided that I am going to be fully committed to my family. I'm going to remember that I'm not just a dad or a mum, and I'm going to have the sickest life on the journey and do all of the stuff that I love with my kids too. And I'm going to figure out a way to pay ourselves a little bit each week throughout this period of time before they finish high school. So the day they finish high school, you guys are financially free in your late 40s, early 50s, early 60s, and you can just do whatever you want to do after that point. And it's like, what if the next 15, 20, 30 years wasn't a grind raising kids and then rushing to sort out financial freedom like unfortunately so many people do and miss?
Yeah, and we did at the beginning of our journeys. We were rushing, and then it was like fear. How do we make it happen as soon as possible? Like, let's not lie. Like at the beginning of our journey, there was a lot of
like chooks with their heads cut off.
I was motivated by fear. Like I was motivated by that, but I've now been able to realize financial peace and let that part go.
I love that so much, and it's so true. It hasn't always been like this. In fact, this morning it wasn't. Like I had to do a meditation to get here. So
Yeah, I was a little bit sane.
and so it's just
The film we was out last night always fucks us, hey?
Yeah, I wake up at 2:00 and I walked outside to do a wee. To do a piece of the yarn. And I was just watching like this. The moon was insane. It was like bigger than normal full moon too. And then it was also just so bright. The clouds were amazing. And I'm looking at the stars and I'm just like, this is off the hook. Like this life that we're in is so beautiful. And I'm grateful that we're all investing. I'm grateful that we're focusing on our careers, our businesses, our jobs. I'm grateful that, you know, we can share this stuff. And I'm grateful that we can be epic parents so that the next generation is like raised with love, with kindness, with compassion. And then that'll be all they know. Like, what if we didn't put all our own shit onto our kids, myself mainly included? Like, here's my mirror. And I just was like, you just be who you are, and here's some like safe boundaries around how you can live without hurting yourself before you know that, like, you know, you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, I love it. And like the last thing that I wanted to do is like a huge reason and motivation for me to figure out how to invest and you know, sort of get out of the system to say is like, I want to teach my kids about this stuff, you know, at a much earlier age than I figured it out as well. So it's like, you know, you lead by example, right? And it's like, if you want your kids to have more financial success in the future, then it starts with you. It starts with the leader. So you've got to, you know, take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, they don't listen to what you say. Like, they watch what you do.
Yeah.
You can talk about investing all you like. You can talk about saving money, but unless you're doing it, it's just in one ear with kids and out the other. And so I think it's been an important part of the journey. Like, I overcorrected, and many of you guys will as well. And Simon probably did at one point or another as well. Like, the overcorrection is I've found a way out. And I think the fear outside of like bringing past stuff that no longer serves you, becoming your best self into the present, like that's letting go of that. I think a lot of the fear came from not having a clear plan, not having a team, not having a strategy, not knowing which market, not having the experience and the runs on the board and the mistakes behind me to do better. And so a big part of what we do as a business for that very small number of people that we help each year is take away that, because we've been there, we've done it. The average person in our team has bought at least 4 properties.
Yeah.
Like, the average person in our team has bought hundreds of millions of dollars property for our clients. Like, the average person in our team is already financially free or has full financial peace.
Yeah.
We all own our own homes plus investments. We've all got that family side of things going or are planning towards it.
You, Crystal, Hayden have all been investing with children.
All the way through. So it's like, you know, with that support and education and strategy and incredible team of advisors that you can get by just working with someone like us, it fast tracks everything. And I suppose to round this out, I just wanted to say, like, for those of you guys who are seriously thinking about buying a property in the next 12 months, we'd love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. You can book it by going to www.pumpedonproperty.com. And in that session, you know, myself, Simon, or one of the team will talk about where you are today, where you'd like to be longer term. We can talk about your stage of life and some of the ideas that we've applied that have helped us massively. And then you can take that idea and go and implement it and smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the extremely small number of people that we take on each week or each month. But either way, like, I believe that if you could just see yourself financially free by the time your kids finish high school, and then reverse engineer that into a plan of attack from today, and maybe the next few years are just waiting for equity in your home, or saving money, or waiting for your partner to go back to work,
Paying down debt, so
Pay down
you've got
debt.
more serviceability.
Like, maybe there's nothing happening for the next 5 years and you're just in that holding pattern, but at some point taking strategic action that's going to change your life for the better. Yes, having choices in your future and which retirement home you go to is important. Yes, having some choices.
I want it to be opposite a beach, please.
Yeah, I want that. Like, no one's building that. Where's those beachside ones?
Well, we've got a guest at the age and we'll build one, hopefully.
But yeah, like, exactly. I want to be on that one. I want to be on that side of the
sauna, ice bar, gym, personal trainer.
all of my like best friends and family living in the same joint with no one else.
We're going to manifest that. Who wants to buy one right now? Well, it's been a wild ride to date, and I'm really excited about the future and really excited about becoming a parent and seeing how that changes my investment strategy, my motivation, the way I operate within the world. Like, it's been inspiring to watch what you've done, to see how Crystal's done it, to see how Hayden does it as well, and so many of our amazing clients that we work with, because I think the major reason why a lot of us are doing this is to get more time back so we can spend more time with our children at the end of the day, right?
100%. No, I really appreciate it, bro. I love this video, guys, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's cool, bro. Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice.